Hey kids, back with me again, Joseph, your host, and welcome back to Catechism for Kids. Have you ever felt really cold?
What?
So cold that your teeth start chattering? Well, today we're going to hear a story about a man who met someone feeling just like that. What he did next became one of the most famous stories of kindness ever told. It's the story of Saint Martin of Tours and his cloak. So who was this Martin guy? Long ago, in the 4th century, Martin was a brave soldier in the Roman army. He wasn't a saint yet. In fact, he was what's called a catechumen, which is a big word for someone who was learning all about God and the Catholic faith before getting baptized. He was a good person with a kind heart, but one particular day, his kindness truly shone for everyone to see. It was a freezing cold winter day in a city in France called Amiens. Imagine snow on the ground and a wind so chilly it bites at your cheeks. Martin was riding his horse, probably heading back to the safety and warmth of his barracks. As he approached the big gates of the city, he saw something that made him stop. There, shivering by the side of the road, was a poor beggar. The man had almost no clothes on and was shaking uncontrollably from the cold. He looked miserable, and many people just walked right past him, ignoring his suffering. Maybe they were in a hurry, or maybe they just didn't want to get involved. But Martin was different. His heart was filled with compassion. He looked at the man and knew he had to do something. The problem was, Martin was a soldier, and he didn't have any money with him to give to the beggar. What could he do? He looked down at himself. He was wearing his big, warm military cloak. It was made of thick wool and was very valuable. It was part of his uniform, and it kept him safe from the wind and the cold. He needed the cloak, but the beggar needed it more. So Martin did something amazing and unexpected. He drew his soldier's sword, but not to fight. Instead, he took the thick wool cloak, held it out, and sliced it right down the middle. He cut his own cloak in two. Then, he gently wrapped one half of the cloak around the shivering beggar to warm him up. He kept the other, now rather funny-looking, half for himself. Some people who saw what he did actually laughed at him. They thought he looked silly with his tattered half-cloak. But others were deeply touched. They saw a man who was willing to share what little he had to help someone in need. Martin didn't care what others thought. He just wanted to help. Then he got back on his horse and rode away. That very night, something incredible happened. Martin had a powerful dream. In his dream, he saw Jesus Christ himself, surrounded by a beautiful light and a choir of angels. And what was Jesus wearing? He was wearing the exact half of the cloak that Martin had given to the poor beggar earlier that day. Martin watched in awe as Jesus turned to the angels and said, "Martin, who is still just a catechumen, has clothed me with this garment." Can you imagine how Martin must have felt? In that moment, he understood something profound. He realized that when he showed kindness to that poor, forgotten man at the city gate, he was actually showing kindness to Jesus. This dream changed Martin's life forever. It was a message straight from heaven. He understood the words from the Gospel of Matthew, which we still read today. "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Helping someone in need, no matter who they are, is the same as helping Jesus himself. This experience filled Martin with so much faith and joy that he was baptized soon after. He eventually left the army and dedicated his entire life to serving God and helping the poor. He became a priest and then a bishop, the Bishop of Tours, and he never lost his humble and generous spirit. So what does this wonderful story from over 1,500 years ago teach us today? It's packed with amazing lessons for all of us. First, and most importantly, it shows us that when we are kind to others, we are being kind to Jesus. When you share your snack with a friend who forgot theirs, or when you comfort someone who is sad, or when you help your parents with chores without being asked, you are showing love to Jesus. He sees every single act of kindness, no matter how small. Second, the story of Saint Martin teaches us to be generous with what we have, even if we don't think it's much. Martin didn't wait until he had a spare cloak or extra money. He shared what he had right in that moment. We don't have to wait until we're rich or grown up to be generous. We can share our time, our talents, or a smile. Generosity comes from a loving heart, not a full wallet. Martin's half-cloak was worth more in God's eyes than 1,000 gold coins, given without love. And that brings us to our third lesson. You don't need money to be a kind person. Martin didn't have a single coin to give, but he found another way to help. Kindness is about seeing a need and doing what you can to fill it. It's about compassion. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is just your attention and your care. A kind word can warm a person's heart just as much as a wool cloak can warm their body. Finally, Martin's story shows us that our actions have power. His one act of charity strengthened his faith so much that it set the course for the rest of his life, leading him to become one of our great saints. Your kind actions can change you too. They make your heart bigger and bring you closer to God. Every time you choose to be kind, you are training your heart to be more like the heart of Jesus. Here are some trivia and interesting facts about St. Martin of Tours. The Church celebrates the feast day of St. Martin of Tours every year on November 11th. Known as Martinstag in Germany, it often includes processions, bonfires, and giving to the poor, inspired by Martin's generosity. St. Martin is not only the patron of soldiers, but also of tailors and the poor. Due to his compassionate gesture of cutting his cloak for the beggar, the half-cloak Martin gave to the beggar was preserved as a relic and housed in a sanctuary, which eventually gave rise to the term chapel from the Latin capella, meaning little cloak. So next time you see someone who needs help, remember St. Martin. Remember that you have the power to share the cloak of your kindness. It might be half your sandwich, a helping hand, or just a friendly smile. And know that when you do, Jesus himself sees it and says, "Thank you, you did that for me." Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Catechism for Kids. We hope you were inspired by the beautiful story of St. Martin. Remember to be a helper and a sharer this week. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next story. God bless you and your family. See you next time, and stay healthy.